Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface with AZChats number 89. AZChats videos, the more podcasty type of a video as opposed to a visual video. Something for you to listen to, not necessarily watch. However, I have put something on the screen here for your viewing pleasure. And I promise you that I have not just been speaking for 13 and a half minutes with my microphone muted. But this AZChats, as ever, will not contain fruity language, i.e. language of an adult nature, because YouTube doesn't like that anymore, especially for the algorithm. So we're just going to have to be nice and placid as. But yeah, I put something up there for your viewing pleasure. Maybe, I don't know, you tell me. So, the classic WoW Conundrum. What is this all about? Well, believe it or not, and I can't really believe this, but it's true, we are less than a month away from the release of classic World of Warcraft. Yes, the announcement from November 2017 is nearly upon us, which feels pretty crazy. I remember when it was announced, I was streaming, full-time streaming at the time, and I believe I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition to my audience. And I was just about to go on to tea break, make myself some tea. And I think it was Sean. I think it was Sean that said to me, are you going to watch BlizzCon? And I was just like, nah, I'm not going to watch BlizzCon. I might catch some highlights later. And then word started to filter through about the announcement of Classic. And suddenly it was just like, whoa, because this version of the game that attracted me to the product, you know, I'd always heard good things about the World of Warcraft. I'd always heard scary things about World of Warcraft. WoW widows and all of this. Relationships are splitting up because guys or girls, plenty of each, were neglecting their partners playing World of Warcraft all the time, which led to splits in relationships. But when I got my first PC, which was in 2007, my friend said to me, this is a story you've heard before, so I do apologize, but I'm getting so many new subscribers all the time, I have to kind of update these things. My friend said to me, so are you going to get WoW? And I was like, oh, I don't know, man. I've heard these horror stories, WoW widows and all this kind of stuff. And I'd just come out of playing Final Fantasy XI for a couple of years as well. So did I want to go back into another big MMORPG? But I was in PC World, and I purchased, I think, for £1.49, a World of Warcraft trial. And I installed it on the PC. And that was it. The rest, as they say, is l'histoire. Is history. The rest of it is history. I was absolutely captivated with the game from the first cinematic. From seeing that meteor hit the ground and that Inferno rise up. Seeing that undead warlock in the swamps doing hellfire, burning those Murloc scum to the ground. I knew, as there was a huge Inferno behind it, I knew that's what I want to be. That is what I want to be. I want to be that undead warlock thing. So I rolled an undead warlock, and yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. And for what, from 2007 to 2010, so 7, 8, 9, 10, best part of 4 years, because I started in March 2007. So all of 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. So for a good 4 years, I just had this, what I would call magical gaming experience. This incredible experience, because they still hadn't tweaked any of the vanilla leveling in the Burning Crusade. So I still managed to experience the vanilla experience for that. he says, trying to not use experience so many times. And I went through the whole of Burning Crusade as a knob. Then I saw, as some people know, I saw this warlock walking around Shatrath in T5 armor, and I was just like, holy shit! So I messaged them, I was like, dude, how do I become you? How do I get that? What do I have to do to get that armor? That is badass, dude. And he said, wow, this has got through raiding. You got to become a raider. And that's when I knew I needed to become a raider. And I'd befriended somebody who was actually in one of the biggest guilds in World of Warcraft. In the server, I should say, sorry. One of the biggest raiding guilds. And I said to them, I just saw this guy in some incredible armor. He said, I need to become a raider. I don't know what that means. Can you help me out here? And they took me under their wing and they invited me to their guild. Yes, this huge guild. There was a raiding guild who were always looking for people who are keen to learn to raid. That was the beauty of it. They weren't elitist. They were great. They weren't elitist. They were always had their eyes open and arms wide to receive people who wanted to learn. I want to become better. I want to become a raider. I want to be that badass in that outfit. I want to be, part of this posse here. And so they took me on my first raid, which was Gruul's Lair. Forgot to tell me the loot rules. So when we defeated the first boss, and by the way, I was just like playing the first raid like, it was just such a joyful experience. Some warlock shoulders dropped, and I needed on them the not the actual shoulders themselves, the token, the tier token that we used to have in those days. And people were just saying, "Oh, he's ninja looting," and the person who had invited me into the guild was like, "No, my fault. I totally forgot to tell them the loot rules." Fortunately, because you didn't have like trade. You had to open up a ticket to get a GM to sort the loots out and stuff. So fortunately, they said, does anyone actually need that first of all? Nobody needed that. So it's like, well, it doesn't matter. He would have got it anyway. These are the loot rules. Are you aware of them now? It's like, yeah. It's my bad, sorry. And then we went on to Gruul itself, which was, it's just great stuff. And I left that first raid. Remember then taking the token, and the token was a tier 4 token, not the tier 5 token. That was from the Eye, Tempest Keep. And I went to hand my token in, and I got the Void Shoulders, tier 4, and I put these Void Shoulders on. And of course, because this is the Burning Crusade, I looked like a freaking clown. I looked like Bobo the Bloody Clown because of all the mismatching gear. But holy crap. I put those shoulders on, I felt like the most majestic WoW player that had ever graced the game. I was so happy. Not only was I so happy, my chest was all pumped out. I felt as if I had achieved something. I was so happy to be part of the raiding team. At the end of the raid, because guild raid leaders used to be pretty stoic, they weren't, or my experience at least, feel free to contradict me in the comment section down below, but my experience, a lot of raid leaders were pretty hard-ass people. This is what we do, people. Not necessarily saying, they were rogue generals, but some of them were. I used to be. I was terrible. never put me as a raid leader. No. But they used to be, because they need to organise so much, they needed 24 other people apart from themselves to carry out the things. So they tend to be pretty stoic people. But I do recall after the raid, the person who had invited me in, they were messaging me, how did you find it? Did you enjoy it? Was it good? And the raid leader messaged me, did you enjoy your first raid? How was it? Oh, I'm actually getting a little emotional just thinking about it, because it was just great. This new person, this newbie who had come into the game, by the way, this is nothing like this 13 minutes that I did muted at all. Just completely gone off at a tangent here, but that's what AZChats are there for. You know, this complete newbie that knew nothing about WoW at all, who literally whispered somebody that looked badass and said, "How do I become you?" Got taken under the wing of a wonderful guild, wonderful massive raiding guild, to be taught how to raid, who got a piece of loot on their very first raid, which was very rare because people who are new, there was normally lots of raid conditions for brand new players that you didn't get loot. Not because they were being unfair, but they were, you know, weeding out the people who were there to just try and grab something and you know, get G-quit and try and do the same with other guilds. Also weeding out the people who are there for the short-term gratification as opposed to the long-term impact that raiding would have, of course. And then to have these people afterwards just say, "Hey, how did you find it? Did you enjoy it?" I felt part of a community. I really felt knitted and embedded into this game now. I felt like, oh God, this game is for me, you know. This game is absolutely for me. And yeah, we continued to raid for a couple of years to come, and it was just wonderful, you know, wonderful stuff. I can't even remember why I left the guild or why the you know, we stopped or whatever it was, or why I moved into another guild. I genuinely cannot remember for the life of me why. But I ended up in another heavy raiding guild for Wrath of the Lich King. And, you know, again, I was much more experienced then, and suddenly this scrub had become the master, because I was never a master, but I was so heavily invested in raiding and learning my craft as a warlock, you know, because things change all the time now, that I'd actually become the warlock class leader. And, you know, it was I was the one who was vetting the warlocks to come into the guild. You know, I was the one who was going through the applications out for the warlocks. I was the one who was, you know, going to the major cities, which was, well, Orgrimmar it would be, because that's Horde, and seeing how they performed on target dummies, seeing their rotations and stuff like that, seeing if there's any thing that we could tweak with them, all this kind of stuff. And it was just phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I think you can pretty much guess people by the way that I've just been gushing. 13 minutes, we're now on to sorry. The way that I've just been gushing about this experience, how much I loved WoW in those days. You know, for all these people that go, "It's just a fucking WoW hater." This is my memory of WoW. You know, this is to me, those years, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. They were the absolute golden years for me personally. So just imagine if I'd joined WoW in 2004 and had that vanilla raiding experience as well, which I never had. To add to that memory bank, it would have just been incredible, because it was vanilla that allowed the Burning Crusade, that allowed Wrath of the Lich King, which has led all the way here to Battle for Azeroth, unfortunately. But we started to see this, after the announcement, we started to see this crazy division in the WoW community itself. And instead of... what I saw... This is what I saw. You know, feel free to put how you view things in the comment section down below. But the way that I saw it is a lot of happy World of Warcraft players to be able to get Classic, to be able to play Classic, to be able to have an official Classic server that they weren't scared that Blizzard were going to DMCA take down, you know, sites and all this kind of stuff. Something that they could latch onto from yesteryear, that they could create content for, that they could stream, and people who could just play and enjoy the game as it was initially set up and created. This to what I believe is a much, much better World of Warcraft experience versus what seemed to be quite a bitter modern day community with WoW. Well, why do you want the old stuff? The old stuff's shit. And a very dismissive kind of bunch of people who had no respect for this version of the game that has allowed their version of WoW to exist today. If it wasn't for Classic being... because it wasn't perfect. It was not perfect by any stretch. But if you can see what a game is trying to do, and it succeeds in the vast majority of it, you can forget the mistakes. This is what I say to people, you don't criticise this a lot. Well, because it's doing so many things right, there's no point in criticising the things they're doing wrong. Or they're not quite getting, not quite nailing, because there are so many things that they are doing right. That just feels like nitpicking. But they just did so many things right that over time certain elements got tweaked and changed, and then you saw that woof, or in your case, woof, in subscribers when the Burning Crusade came along. When that first expansion came along, WoW went stratospheric. Phew! Because the Burning Crusade was amazing. And it did take WoW to that next level. It really did. And then Wrath of the Lich King seemed to refine it all. So yeah, and then again, it was still going up with Wrath of the Lich King. Still going up with Wrath of the Lich King. And it was only in Cataclysm that we saw the first dips in subscriber levels. And I think you could easily understand why after you played the first couple of expansions versus Cataclysm. But you have this very dismissive community. That version's crap. Why do you want that? It's crap. No, the whole point is it was so good and so many people joined the game at that time and played it at that time, and it's so revered as a masterpiece of gaming that you have your version 15 years later and for all intents and purposes still going strong. Is it the behemoth it used to be? No. Absolutely not. There's no denying that. Is it as good as it used to be? I don't think it's even arguably no. I would say categorically no. There hasn't been the evolution, I would say, in the game that the others, you could see the evolution in the Burning Crusade. You could see the evolution in Wrath of the Lich King. Then it suddenly became a more of the same, a more of the same, a more of the same. You never saw the evolution anymore. You never saw them attempting to try anything different. It just felt like, we're doing so well, let's just keep things the way they are. Let's just maintain the status quo. And remember, when WoW started to get stale because it wasn't evolving, because they weren't trying anything new, it was much the same of the same, and people started to cry out for the old version, started to go over to private servers. The huge success of Nostalrius, massive success of Nostalrius, which was at its peak, of course, when WoW was at its, potential darkest day, but I think Battle for Azeroth may have sunk it into even darker days. But Warlords of Draenor, you had... I know it's incredible to say, somebody come on stage and tell you, the player, tell you what you did and didn't want. Madness. Madness. We want to return back to the days where WoW felt substantial, where you had management of your character. Everything, where the world was dangerous, where it felt like you're exploring, where it felt like there was new, exciting adventures to be had. As opposed to this stale, you're going to do your dungeons, you're going to get to top level, you're going to do your rep grind, and you got your raids, and it never changed. And it never, ever changed. And then you had the person come up and say, no, you think you do, but you don't. By the way, Warlords of Draenor's coming. The worst experience you'll ever have in WoW. but I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. Madness. Absolute madness. We are so closed-eared and closed-minded. We are so we can't hear you. To your pleas and your feedback, we are going to tell you what you want, and we're going to get it disastrously wrong. Because, of course, it wasn't telling people what they wanted. It was telling them what they wanted to give you. So we have this clash of the WoW communities itself. So, what I should be saying right now is, who cares? Who cares? I'm excited for Classic. You know, this is the version of the game which I think is substantially better than the current version. This is the one that I think is more fulfilling, feels more satisfying. So I'm just gonna crack on with this. Well, the Conundrum isn't about WoW versus WoW. The Conundrum comes in with Shadowbringers. That's where the biggest part of the Conundrum comes into effect. Because I did not expect Shadowbringers to be as good as it is. An incredible narrative. An incredible story that they're telling here in Final Fantasy XIV. Because when WoW was floundering, you know, when it was floundering through its Warlords of Draenor absolute debacle, to the mixed bag that was Legion. I know some people want to big up Legion a little bit more than it was, but it was a huge mixed bag. To the disastrous early part of Battle for Azeroth. And I'm not even sure that 8.2 has drastically changed things either. I think we've seen a little bit of an uptick. There seems to be a little bit of a better response from Mechadon, or whatever it's called. Megadonga. But I don't think there's been a particular flood of people coming back. Since Shadowbringers has released, I have not been able to log in at all without going into at least some queue. Whether it's just a small queue of 15 to 25 people is irrelevant. I have not been able to just log in and get straight into the game. Every single time since the release of that game at the end of... because I went into early access at the end of June. So for the last month, I have not been able to log straight into Shadowbringers. I have always been in the queue every single solitary time. So I didn't expect Shadowbringers to be so good. So World of Warcraft is floundering, and Final Fantasy XIV eases itself back in. After its disastrous 2010 launch, Final Fantasy 1.0 was the hottest of hot garbage. It really, really was. I would even go so far as saying I would play Warlords of Draenor quite... When I say happily... I think that might be not quite the word. But I would play Warlords of Draenor before playing Final Fantasy 1.0 again. I mean, there would be a morbid curiosity to go back to it. Because obviously I haven't played 1.0 since 2010. So there would be a morbid curiosity to see what it would be like. But I just know it was horrendous. It was absolutely atrocious. The combat was garbage beyond compare. One thing World of Warcraft has always done well is combat. Even if the combat is easy, that it's the movement of the combat and the playstyle of the combat has always been superb. But even looking back, I recently looked back and watched some videos of 1.0 footage, and I was just like, oh god, this looks horrendous. Oh, this looks absolutely horrific. But yeah, you suddenly had a Realm Reborn start to re-emerge as World of Warcraft started to slip into its darker days. Back end of Mists of Pandaria, there wasn't any content. There was no content. This seems insane to say today. There was no content for 14 months. 14 months and no content. Madness. Utter madness. And then we were sliding into Warlords of Draenor, which was garbage fire. Just World of Warcraft garbage fire. So A Realm Reborn starts to get itself a little bit of a reputation. Starts to get itself some respect back. Oh, my goodness me, this is released, so much better to 1.0. The game feels a lot better. It plays a lot better. Yoshi P has done the biz. All that kind of stuff. And then when Warlords has fallen off the cliff and there's no interest in Warlords at all, what happens? Heavensward. The first Final Fantasy XIV expansion comes out. And it takes on board a ton of WoW refugees. Boasts the highest number of subscribers, the game has had to date. And a lot of them were disillusioned WoW players. A lot of those new signees, I should really stress, a lot of them were disillusioned WoW players looking for a new home. Now, Blizzard tried with Legion, and you could see that they tried with Legion. There were some things that I think they did very well. Narratively, they started to make things a bit more exciting because you did feel for a part of the expansion, for a part of 7.0, you could feel that they wanted to do something to make your character feel special again. One of the biggest failures in WoW full stop is that your character is inconsequential. You are there in the game, but you are nothing. You aren't the person you're the person who's being referred to as a champion, a hero. You're a nobody. You don't go down in the annals of time. It's Thrall and a couple of champions of the Horde. It's Jaina Proudmoore and an Alliance champion. You're the afterthought character. Whereas in Final Fantasy XIV, you're the Warrior of Light. Or now, also the Warrior of Darkness. You are the Warrior of. And the focus of the story is you. And what you can do to protect Eorzea, etc., or now the First, and all this kind of stuff. So having that importance on your character makes you feel so much more involved in the narrative experience. Whereas in WoW, you've been this afterthought champion, sift through shit and pick up a key. Oh, get out of here! Come on, type of business. But Legion actually tried to make your character feel a little bit more important, particularly with the artifact weapons. You went through these lovely little stories, and they were lovely little stories to acquire your artifact weapons. Now, sure, some of them cross-pollinated to save time and resources and all that kind of stuff. But, certain ones felt very meaningful, particularly with things like oh my goodness me. Everyone gets a... Oh my goodness me. I have totally forgotten the name. I've drawn a blank. It'll come to me. Let's just say Frostmourne to start with. Things like Frostmourne, weapons that are beloved to the World of Warcraft. Suddenly having daggers or little shorter swords made out of Frostmourne and this kind of stuff. They had lovely little implications. Characters being killed off suddenly felt as if there was an element of danger in WoW, and then all of it just seemed to go in Legion. It just seemed, since the beginning of 7.0, it just all vanished. All the danger of the Legion, all the threat, all the, horror that somebody may be taken from us at any time, it all just went. And then he just had, Khadgar being a fucking idiot. Making dad jokes all around the place and just being dumbass, and the broken shore hot garbage, and fucking Argus just... Bleh. Beautiful. Look at the sky. It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, it's amazing. You can see Azeroth. It's crazy good. Good. Don't look down because the content is fucking shit. So it really lost its way in some places as well. But Final Fantasy kept chugging along. Releases Stormblood. I don't think there's any denying that Stormblood didn't get the reception that Heavensward did by any stretch. I think because one of the things I think is because the narrative of Stormblood and Heavensward is actually very similar. If you boiled it down to its common denominator, they were very, very similar stories. Very, very similar stories indeed. Just two different factions. Ishgard, dragons, and then you have the Garleans and the Almagans. So you had very, very similar stories indeed. And because I thought the one in Heavensward was told so well, the one in, for the beginning part at least, of Stormblood didn't really grab me. But then the second half, when we started to get a lot more involved in the Ascian side of it, the second half became very interesting indeed. And then World of Warcraft releases Battle for Azeroth. And I could see from participating in the alpha and the beta that this was going to be a disaster. I could see it. I could absolutely see it. It was, you could just see... Right, okay. It might seem like harsh language, but I gotta say it. You could just see that there was no shits given at all when it came to this 0.0 patch. There was none. You could tell that this was a cheap ass, let's just get something out, over and done with, it type of expansion. That's how it really came across. Right, we're just going to copy paste a bunch of this stuff from Legion, boom. Dub it down as well, for the most part. Dub it down, boom, let them go for it. And it was just like, holy cow. This is just the epitome of lazy. Hey, can we have your feedback on stuff? Yeah, Warfronts are boring and terrible. You can't lose. They're dull. There's no real threat. You're just picking up wood and iron all the time. It's disastrous. Okay. We're going to do nothing. I know this has come out in alpha testing, but we're going to do nothing at all, even though the resounding feedback is negative. That to me just showed what is the point in even having an alpha or a beta test. You might as well just have a stress test. You might as well just have a stress test at the end of it all, really, to be perfectly honest with you. Because they didn't give two hoots about any feedback. Yeah, Island Expeditions were quite good fun when you had these things, but you've dubbed it all down. You've taken this away. You've taken the portals away. You've taken the bouncing AI away, which is really cool. All this is gone. It feels very generic now. Okay. Are you going to do anything? Thank you for your feedback. They didn't care. They didn't give two shits. They didn't care one bit. And because you had all the other just copy and paste stuff over the world, although how beautiful the world looks, felt so blah. These incredible continents that have been created by the art department, and it just had hot fire garbage. Right, it's like somebody, some amazing cake designer, right? Creating this beautiful and elaborate cake for somebody's wedding. Yeah? And then somebody just come along with squirty cream. Cheapest squirty cream you can find. Just going... And then just getting like a bunch of 1,000 and fucking chucking it over and stuff. Oh, look at the cake now. You've ruined the cake. This beautiful base of a cake and you've just... That's what it felt like. Non-threatening world, boring-ass world, repetitive quests, Azerite armor, garbage, Heart of Azeroth, garbage, Warfronts, garbage, Island Expeditions, dull, repetitive, nothing differentiating any of them whatsoever. Goddamn stupid command table for no reason, doesn't even need to be there anymore. You know, just garbage, 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 garbage! But Square, working on Shadowbringers. This story, which has been started in A Realm Reborn, is continuing still. You know, there's still elements of this story which have going on and on and on, building up, and suddenly we have this huge revelations coming out in Shadowbringers. At least revelations to our character, and big revelations about the Ascians and stuff like this, and who the Ascians truly are. And Shadowbringers teases itself. Great concept. Hey, Warrior of Light, yeah? Next expansion, you've got to become the Warrior of Darkness. Come again? We've got to become the complete opposite of what we were. What does that mean? What does that mean? Because you don't have the full context. So people start getting interested. How are we going to become the Warrior of Darkness? Why are we becoming the Warrior of Darkness? Why is the Crystal Tower being focused again? Are we going to get more Crystal Tower raiding? All these kind of questions, until, of course, it's revealed that we're going off-world to another world because of the way that the source was split into 13 others. So the 14 being the source, and then the other worlds being split away from it. The Ascians, spoilers, trying to reunite all the worlds through calamities, so they can have their world back, because the Ascians were... It's all great stuff. So you have WoW again at its lowest point, and Final Fantasy throwing something exceedingly interesting out there. And even before Shadowbringers comes out, Yoshi P announces that Final Fantasy XIV is now at the highest number of subscribers the game has ever had, which means it has to be more than 1.5 million people, because that's what it was at its peak. So it has to be more than that. World of Warcraft subscribers, 2.5 to 3 million, most likely. 2.5 to 3.5, let's say. 2.5 to 3.5 million, most likely. So big threat there. And then it releases, and guess what? It lives up to its hype. Not only does it live up to its hype, it really pulls you in. It really, really pulls you in. And I personally have not been able to get off the damn thing since it came out. It's just been absolutely incredible. So, dismissing current version of WoW, because that's just irrelevant. Where does Classic come in? Where does Classic WoW come into this equation? A month away, Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers is nailing it. Does that mean it's going to have an effect? Does it mean that I'm not going to play Classic? Does it mean that I don't know what to do in terms of my Classic play? Well, kind of yay and nay. Nay in as much as I'm absolutely going to play Classic. Absolutely going to play Classic. I'm going to roll Horde. And I'm going to roll Undead. Am I going to roll a Warlock? Not sure. Not sure. That's the only thing I'm not sure on anymore. But I'm going to go Horde. And I'm going to go Undead. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to my World of Warcraft roots. My vanilla roots in the World of Warcraft. And my design for Classic is I'm just going to enjoy myself, you know. There's going to be no rush for me. There's going to be no pushing myself to level 60 as quickly as possible so I can immediately jump into raids. None of that whatsoever. It's just going to be what I want it to be. And I want it to be that enjoyable experience that I had. I'm never going to be able to recapture the days of 2007. Never. It's impossible. Number one, because you can't. Number two, because you can't. We're too experienced in the game now. We can play it too well compared to how we did when we first started. So we know certain tricks, and we know how to play a class. We're much more familiar, even though it's still going to be very different than it is today. We still have a very good understanding of how to play that class, at least anyway. But I want it to be an enjoyable experience, not a job, not a chore. I don't want it to be an expressway for content. in terms of, I gotta do this so I can get the first of this out. That's not how it's going to be for me. I want to have some fun with people. I want to level up with people and do some quests with people. I want to do some dungeons with people. I want to have a laugh. I want to make it that enjoyable experience that I had. I want to do the Scolomances. I want to do the Stratholms so much. And I want to get into those Nax Ramesses raids and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with taking your time and easing your way into it. I'm going to play a little bit here. I'm going to play a little bit there. I'm going to stream a little bit here, stream a little bit there. But it's going to be, to me, what it was to me back in 2007 when I first joined. It's going to be the version of WoW which puts a smile on my face. It's going to be the version of the World of Warcraft where I was so happy to log in. Those days when it used to go into reset and you'd be there at 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever, and it goes offline and you're just like, I am counting down the hours. I'm not going to be doing that now, of course, but it's going to get to that point where I'm going to be happy to be experiencing. I'm going to be happy to be grounded and not flying in this version of Azeroth. I'm going to be happy to see the old walls of Gilneas and the old broken gate. And although I know what's behind there, just say to myself, I wonder what the city of Gilneas was. Just little silly things like that, which we used to say to ourselves. Go to the dome of Dalaran and say, I wonder what Dalaran's like. I wonder if we'll ever see Dalaran in the World of Warcraft. That was the question I used to ask myself. Just have these wonderful little experiences. Getting myself trapped and cornered in keeps. Running out of mana and having no drinks or anything like that whatsoever to help me with. I want all of the experiences. The 60-minute Hearthstone. So I don't have get out of jail cards. I got to fight my way out. I've got to run my way out. I've got to swim my way out. I've got to die and resurrect. All the traps, trials and tribulations that it brought. But to me, Classic is going to be the game which puts that World of Warcraft smile back on my face. Because it was the version of game that forever did that. And it was the version of the game which I do have the fond memories of. And I can separate from the current version. I can separate from the falling off a cliff version of WoW that we've seen in recent times. It is the version of the game which provided me with so many good memories and so many good people and so many good experiences. So why rush? Why rush an experience like that when you can just sit back and enjoy? So there we go. I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Just checks to make sure the microphone's still on. Oh, thank God. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links there in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.